My girlfriend texted, "Need to cancel date night again, family crisis." I replied, "Of course, babe." Then caught her on a live TV broadcast at a basketball game with my boss. HR is getting an interesting email tomorrow. I, 29M, never thought my Friday night would end with me drafting the most satisfying email of my career while watching my entire relationship crumble in high definition. It started like any other Thursday. My girlfriend of 2 years texted me around lunch saying she needed to cancel our date night again. Another family crisis. Her grandmother was supposedly having health issues, and she needed to drive 3 hours to be with family. I responded with understanding and support, telling her family came first and we could reschedule for the weekend. This was the 4th cancellation in 6 weeks. Each time, it was something urgent with her family. Her grandmother's health, her cousin's wedding emergency, her brother's car accident. I was starting to feel like dating a first responder, always on call for family disasters. But I loved her, and family emergencies happen. I convinced myself I was being the supportive boyfriend she needed. Friday evening arrived, and I found myself alone again. My roommate was out with his girlfriend, so I settled in with a beer and turned on the local basketball game. Our city's team was playing their biggest rival, and the arena was packed. The camera panned across the crowd during timeouts, showing excited fans cheering and couples sharing nachos. That's when I saw them. Row 12, center court, premium seats that cost more than my monthly rent. My girlfriend was there, wearing the red dress I'd bought her for her birthday, laughing and feeding popcorn to my boss. Not just sitting near him, feeding him. His hand was resting on her thigh like they'd done this 1,000 times before. The camera lingered on them for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 5 seconds. Long enough for me to screenshot the moment with my phone. Long enough for my brain to process what I was seeing. Long enough for my stomach to drop into my shoes. My boss, the same man who'd been assigning me weekend shifts for the past 2 months, claiming urgent client deadlines. The same man who'd been asking detailed questions about my relationship status and weekend plans during our weekly check-ins. The same man who'd suggested I might benefit from putting in more face time at the office if I wanted that promotion I'd been chasing. I sat there staring at my phone screen, the screenshot burning into my retinas. The timestamp showed 8:47 p.m. According to her earlier text, she should have been 3 hours away comforting her sick grandmother. Instead, she was courtside with my boss, who was married with 2 kids and coached Little League on weekends when he wasn't busy manipulating his employees. The pieces started falling into place like dominoes. The canceled dates always coincided with my weekend assignments. Her mysterious new jewelry that she claimed was from her aunt. The fact that she'd suddenly become interested in basketball, a sport she'd previously called boring. Her phone calls that she'd take in another room, claiming it was family drama too complicated to explain. I wasn't just being cheated on. I was being systematically manipulated by both of them. My phone buzzed with a text from her. A photo of what looked like a hospital waiting room, generic beige walls, and uncomfortable chairs. The message read that her grandmother was stable, but they were keeping her overnight for observation. She'd probably be there all weekend. She loved me and would make it up to me next week. The audacity was breathtaking. She was literally texting me lies while sitting courtside with my boss, probably during halftime. I wondered if he knew she was texting me, or if this was just her standard operating procedure for managing multiple relationships. I spent the rest of the game taking screenshots every time the camera showed their section. By the 4th quarter, I had a comprehensive photo album of their evening. Him buying her drinks, her head on his shoulder during a timeout, both of them standing and cheering when our team scored, acting like a couple who'd been together for years. The game ended with a home team victory. I watched them leave together, his hand on the small of her back as they walked up the arena steps. The same way he guided people during office meetings. Possessive and controlling. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I did research. Our company had strict policies about relationships between supervisors and subordinates. Even stricter policies about supervisors who used their position to manipulate scheduling for personal benefit. The employee handbook was very clear about conflicts of interest and abuse of power. I also discovered that my boss's wife was active on social media. Her recent post showed her at home with their kids, mentioning how daddy was working late again to provide for the family. Post after post of her making excuses for his absence, praising his dedication to his career. She had no idea her husband was using company resources and employee manipulation to fund his affair. Saturday morning brought another text from my girlfriend. She was exhausted, but grandmother was improving. She'd be staying another day to help with arrangements. She missed me terribly and couldn't wait to see me when she got back. I replied that I missed her too and was glad her grandmother was feeling better. Then I opened my laptop and started typing. The email to HR was a masterpiece of professional documentation. I included timestamps, screenshots, and a detailed timeline of how my work schedule had been manipulated to facilitate my supervisor's personal relationship. I attached the photos from the basketball game, clearly showing both of them at an event that contradicted her claimed whereabouts. I cross-referenced my overtime hours with the dates of their apparent outings, showing a pattern of scheduling manipulation. But I wasn't finished. I also prepared a separate email for my boss's wife. Not vindictive or cruel, just factual. Photos of her husband with another woman, along with the context that this woman was dating an employee whose schedule was being manipulated to accommodate their relationship. I included enough detail for her to understand the scope of the deception without making it about revenge. The girlfriend situation required a more personal touch. I spent Saturday afternoon planning the perfect confrontation. Not dramatic or emotional, just coldly factual. I wanted her to understand exactly how thoroughly she'd been caught and how carefully I'd documented everything. Sunday evening, she texted that she was finally heading home. Grandmother was much better, and she couldn't wait to see me. We made plans for dinner Monday night at our usual restaurant. Monday morning, I arrived at work early and sent the HR email from my personal account to ensure it couldn't be traced to company resources. I copied the department head and the regional manager. By 9 a.m., I had a meeting scheduled with HR for that afternoon. The HR meeting was everything I'd hoped for. The documentation was comprehensive enough to launch an immediate investigation. The photos were clear evidence of the relationship. The scheduling manipulation was easily verifiable through company records. They suspended my boss pending a full investigation and reassigned his responsibilities to another manager. I also learned that I wasn't the first employee to raise concerns about his behavior. There had been whispers and complaints, but never enough concrete evidence to act on. My documentation provided the foundation they needed to address a pattern of abuse. Monday evening arrived, and I met my girlfriend at the restaurant. She looked beautiful and relaxed, chatting about her weekend with her family and how grateful she was for my understanding. She ordered wine and talked about planning a trip together, maybe somewhere tropical where we could disconnect from work stress. I let her talk for 20 minutes before placing my phone on the table and showing her the first screenshot. Her face went through several distinct phases: confusion, recognition, panic, and finally resignation. She asked how I found out, and I walked her through the entire timeline. The basketball game, the research, the pattern of lies, the coordination with my boss. She tried several different approaches. It wasn't what it looked like. They were just friends. It was complicated because of work. She was going to tell me when the timing was right. She loved me, but needed space to figure things out. I listened to all of it without interrupting. When she finished, I told her I'd already spoken with HR and that my boss was under investigation. I also mentioned that I'd be sharing some information with his wife, since she deserved to know what her husband was doing with company resources and employee manipulation. The restaurant conversation ended quickly after that. She left in tears, alternating between apologies and accusations. She couldn't believe I'd involved our workplace. She couldn't believe I'd ruined someone's marriage. She couldn't believe I was being so vindictive over a relationship that wasn't working anyway. I finished my dinner alone and paid the check. The food was actually quite good when you weren't distracted by relationship drama. Update 1. Tuesday morning brought chaos at work. Word had spread quickly about the investigation, and my former boss's office was being cleaned out by security. The regional manager called a department meeting to address the situation and assure everyone that scheduling would return to normal protocols immediately. My girlfriend tried calling 12 times before noon. I let them all go to voicemail. The messages started apologetic and grew increasingly angry. By the final message, she was claiming I'd misunderstood everything and destroyed multiple lives over jealousy. My boss's wife called Tuesday afternoon. She'd received my email and wanted to thank me for the information. She'd suspected something was wrong for months, but couldn't prove it. The evidence I provided confirmed her instincts and gave her the clarity she needed to protect herself and her children. She was filing for divorce and had already consulted with an attorney about asset protection. Wednesday brought news that my former boss had been terminated for violation of company policies regarding relationships, abuse of authority, and misuse of company resources. The investigation had uncovered additional issues, including expense reports that didn't align with actual business activities. I was called into a meeting with the regional manager and offered my boss's position on an interim basis. The promotion came with a significant salary increase and the autonomy I'd been seeking for 2 years. They also apologized for the toxic work environment I'd been subjected to and assured me it wouldn't happen again under new management. Update 2. By Friday, my ex-girlfriend had moved out of her apartment. Mutual friends told me she'd taken a job in another city and was leaving immediately. She'd apparently told people I was stalking her and had ruined her life over a misunderstanding. The story varied depending on who she was talking to, but the core narrative was that I was the villain who couldn't handle her having male friends. My boss's wife posted on social media about starting a new chapter and thanking friends for their support during a difficult time. She didn't mention the specifics, but several people commented with encouragement about her strength and resilience. She'd apparently known something was wrong, but hadn't known how to address it until she had concrete evidence. The new work environment was dramatically different. Without my former boss's manipulation, the scheduling became fair and reasonable. Other employees started sharing stories about how they'd been affected by his favoritism and power games. Apparently, I wasn't the only one whose personal life had been disrupted by his schemes. Update 3. 3 weeks later, I received a LinkedIn message from my ex-girlfriend. She'd landed a position at a marketing firm in Denver and wanted to apologize for how things ended. She claimed she'd been confused and made bad decisions, but she hoped we could part as friends. The message felt hollow and calculated. She was probably concerned about professional references or mutual connections. I didn't respond. My boss's divorce was finalized within 2 months. His wife got primary custody of the children and a favorable settlement. She started a blog about rebuilding after betrayal that gained a surprising following. Last I heard, she was considering writing a book about recognizing manipulation in relationships. The company implemented new policies about supervisor relationships and scheduling transparency. My situation became a case study in their management training program, though all identifying details were removed. The regional manager told me they were grateful for my professionalism in handling the situation and that it had led to positive changes across multiple departments. 6 months later, I'm still in the interim management position, though it's looking increasingly permanent. My team respects my leadership style, and the work environment is collaborative rather than manipulative. I've started dating someone new, a teacher who has never canceled a date for a mysterious family emergency and who thinks basketball is boring. Sometimes I wonder if I overreacted. If I should have just broken up with my girlfriend and found a new job instead of burning everything down. But then I remember my boss's wife thanking me for giving her the truth she needed. I remember my coworkers telling me how much better the workplace has become. I remember realizing that I wasn't just being cheated on. I was being systematically manipulated by 2 people who thought they were smarter than everyone around them. They weren't wrong about being smart. They were wrong about thinking I'd stay stupid forever. The screenshot from that basketball game is still saved on my phone. Not because I'm holding on to anger, but because it reminds me to trust my instincts. When something feels wrong, it usually is. When people show you who they are through their actions, believe them the first time. My new girlfriend finds it hilarious that I refuse to watch basketball. She doesn't know the whole story, but she knows enough to understand that sports broadcasts make me twitchy. She's patient with my quirks and honest about her whereabouts. It's amazing how refreshing basic honesty feels after months of elaborate deceptions. The best revenge turned out to be building a better life. The promotion gave me financial security and professional respect. The toxic relationship ending freed me to find someone compatible. Exposing the manipulation protected other employees from similar treatment. Everything worked out exactly as it should have, though I still change the channel when basketball comes on. Some habits die hard.